Hi, friends, and welcome. On today's program, we're headed south, way south, all the way down to San Antonio, Texas, actually 90 miles outside of San Antonio, to an amazing place called the Rio Bonito Ranch. Now, if you've never been there, if you've never heard of the Rio, it is 25 square miles of the most amazing hunting opportunities you will find anywhere in Texas. Now, it's all free range. This isn't a high fence deal. This is come what may, and what comes is whatever. That's the amazing part of it. You might see a great whitetail. You might see an axis buck or a Sika buck or a fallow deer or a black buck or a wild hog or a Rio Grande turkey. You never know what's going to show up at one of their stands. And when you leave that 130-year-old totally refurbished hacienda and go out to one of their tens of dozens of blinds, that is the greatest appeal. You really never know what's going to show up. Now, starting this trip, Miss T is going to take a rifle to the field, and she's going to try to get her first ever exotic, meaning not a native species. Again, these are totally free range. There's awdads. There's all kind of things. She's kind of hoping to find an axis or a Sika buck. They kind of look like a little elk, and she's never got one. And after that, well, I might just sneak out and try to find a whitetail. We've got our good buddy and guide, Captain Dan Fox, along with us. He guides down at the Rio. And together, we're going to head to the field and try to conquer Texas. Hey, I'm your host, Kyle Randall. This is my Wilderness Journal. And Miss T and I are headed deep into the heart of Texas to the legendary hill country right now. Shortly after arriving, we got a chance to visit with Gwen Hughes, the proprietress here at the Rio Bonito. Well, it's great to be had. It's 70 degrees here, and it was snowing when we left. Tina and I were going, oh, should we go to Texas? Yes. The place looks great, and we really have been looking forward to coming back. Has Dan been behaving?
Just a little bit.
A little bit. I heard he might be Dan Fox, folks. If you don't know, is down here guiding, and we're down here with Glenn and Peter, and we're going to do another hunt. Actually, going to do a couple of them.
Yes.
Things been going well?
Oh, very well. Very good season. Really nice animals this year. Good waterfall in the spring. So it's really produced a lot of nice animals.
Well, we're looking forward to it. We're going to get all our stuff unpacked, and then we're going to head to the woods, all right?
That's
It's a pleasure to see you again. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
As we dropped our gear in the room, it occurred to me the accommodations and the view were worth the price of the ticket. But you know, T and I, we were there to hunt.
We used to do this a lot when I was growing up with my Aunt Mary Lou and Ed.
You had an Aunt Ed?
Yeah, or Uncle Ed. I'm sorry, Ed.
T and I agreed we'd discuss her family history some other time. Right now, we needed to get in our stand and get quiet, and not long after getting in that stand, we saw our first critter. A white-tailed doe was working her way out into the sendero, heading across in front of us toward one of the feeders.
Uh-oh. I think I'm going to need to borrow that gun. Oh, it's not that big, but it's a nice one. Oh, it's a good 8-point, but I'm going to let it go. That's a really nice 8-point. You don't have a whitetail license?
No.
I do. That's a nice buck. Nice 8-point.
Yeah.
You know where my bow's at?
In the room.
In the truck.
In the truck. Good place to have it.
Not long after the first one, another doe came working her way out into the sendero.
She's looking back.
And following her were a couple of Sika does. This was kind of what Tina was looking for. These are considered exotics. They're not native species. They're originally from Japan and Southeast Asia. They are, however, residents here. They've been there for over 100 years, and they're every bit as spooky and tough to hunt as the resident whitetail. So this was a good sign. Now all T really needed was for a Sika buck to follow these does out, and she might actually get a shot on her very first day. What she got was that same big 4x4 whitetail chasing a doe up the sendero right straight at us. And without a whitetail license, like I said, all she really could do was sit there and just watch them. So, of course, he worked his way right up in front of us, right into her lap. And then he threw his head up and started looking. T was looking around.
Yeah, I see him. I see him.
Pigs.
There were some wild hogs coming. At first, just some little porkers came running in toward the feeder.
Little ones.
Yeah, there'll be bigger ones.
Yeah, their mama wasn't far behind.
There's Giselle right there. She's a big one.
This way. Oh, big. That's all right.
And then, just as the hogs passed,
And here comes that buck again. Oh, he's here.
there were all kind of critters out there running around. Everything except for a Sika or an Axis, one of the critters Tina was looking for. Still, this is the kind of thing that makes this place so amazing. You truly never know if or when anything and everything might show up in front of you.
Nice buck all in the same shot.
We sat there for a few long moments, knowing full well that wild hogs were one of the things Tina was hunting. And this was certainly a good one. She decided, I'm just going to put the gun out the window, get ready just in case. Wild hogs are one of the most destructive exotics in all of Texas, certainly on everybody's hit list. And T was perfectly comfortable harvesting one. She just didn't know if she wanted to shoot one yet. She was a little worried she might spook a potential Axis or Sika buck coming in. And then, when the pigs moved off, they kind of made her decision for her.
It's just the first day. We've got some time.
And unfortunately, that whitetail was the last thing we saw on Stan that afternoon. On our way in that evening, we did stop by the cross and take a look down into the canyon. And there, in the gathering darkness, T pointed out a dandy bunch of aoudad that had one really exceptional ram in it. And I remember thinking, now there's another possibility. That's what's so great about this place, all the possibilities. It figures we'd see a great whitetail. The only license Miss T didn't buy, she had an exotics license, she could harvest hogs, but she didn't buy a whitetail license. I had one, but she reminded me it was her hunt and I'd just have to wait. Yeah, that was a great buck. Still, it was such a great time, and we saw a tremendous aoudad on the way back in that evening at the cross. That was a smoker of a ram, so I figured, if we can't find a Sika or maybe an Axis, T might want to take a run at an aoudad. Either way, it's what I was telling you. The amount of opportunity, the diversity of game that roams this property is amazing. And even though the next morning T didn't score on that Axis or Sika buck, a couple of the other guests at the Rio got some great trophies. Blowing the horn is the Rio's traditional way of announcing a successful hunter is returning to camp. And this morning, Peter had actually brought in 2 successful hunters. One of them had taken a really nice Sika buck, the other a dandy wild boar. The critters were obviously moving. After seeing the Sika and the tremendous wild boar that a couple of the other guys got that morning, T and I went to a different stand that afternoon, and to say we had high hopes, well, that might have been a bit of an understatement. By the time we got out, the wind had started to build considerably. I remember thinking it'd be a surprise to see anything moving in this much racket, and then
Pigs.
one little wild pig worked his way out into the sendero and started running around. He even trotted out right in front of the blind once. Unfortunately, that's all we saw, save one fallow doe just at dark and a gray fox that stopped by to say hi, I think. That's the way it goes. Sometimes it's just hunting. And speaking of hunting, the following morning T decided she wasn't. She was coughing so hard the night before she decided not to head out. Her decision to stay in did, however, give me a chance to go with Dan as he went out looking for his annual Christmas pig. That's right, I said Christmas pig. In the gathering light, we'd seen a couple of hogs, but they'd slipped away before it got light enough.
I hear something. Yeah, I heard the rocks.
And then Dan heard something off the side of the blind.
Here comes a buck. He's a shooter. Yeah, it's a nice buck.
It was another dandy whitetail buck. We were out here looking for hogs this time, and of course another great whitetail showed up. Fortunately, when the whitetail turned and looked the other way,
Here comes the pig. He's coming back.
here came a perfect porcine portion, the absolute kind of pig Dan was looking for, not too big, something that would cook up tender. This, friends, I'm told, would make the perfect Christmas pig.
There's our pig right there. Sounded good like a hint to me.
I had enough light and a pretty good view of him. What Dan needed was for the pig to come out a little closer to the feeder to get out away from the brush far enough for him to get a shot.
Shoot him. I think there's enough light. He's right. He's gonna come right out to that feeder. Can you shoot him there? I can do it. Okay, let's try him. Yanni, it's rolling.
You got a pig on the porch.
Yeah, you do. That's half a pulled pork sandwich right there. All you need now is bread.
That's my Christmas pig.
There you go. That's just about the right size too. Not too big.
It is.
But
Eat well.
yes, he will. Nice shot, dude. Nice job.
Went down.
That's the way to get her done. You know, Tina's gonna think twice before sleeping in next time.
Well, this isn't the biggest pig in the world, but that's what I was shooting for, is an eater.
Well, yeah, if you're gonna eat them, that's the size right there.
Every year I'll shoot one for my Christmas dinner, a little pulled pork for the grandkids. They're just like domestic pork.
Mm-hmm.
If you get one over 200 pounds, they're really kind of strong.
Yeah.
They're great trophies, but they're kind of strong. This is the eating size that we like to shoot if we want to eat one.
Well, and the proof is that your grandkids butter up the bread and go after that. You know, kids are finicky. That's a pretty good deal. Nice job, buddy.
All right.
Congratulations, Captain Dan, on your Christmas pig. Yeah, you made a great shot, and I'm absolutely sure the Fox family, E-Tux and E-Tal, will enjoy many a pulled pork sandwich from that critter. Friends, it's a tradition. It's kind of a strange tradition, but it's a tradition, and you know how we feel about those. Still, it was time to get back in the woods for T. She was seeing a lot of other guys bring in game, and on top of that, believe it or not, on our way in with Dan's Christmas pig, we spotted a dandy Sika bull not far from where T and I had set the first evening. So yeah, it didn't take much convincing to get her to go back there. We sat for the first hour or so, and the only thing we saw was this Mexican jay. I was really beginning to worry we'd made a mistake by going back to that stand when T looked over, and there were some deer. It wasn't an exotic, but at least some game was moving. And then, just as that small buck turned to follow that doe out, another much larger buck came walking in with a whole bunch of Sika does following him. We sat there holding our breath. Surely this many Sika does would have a Sika buck with it. Unfortunately, at least for the moment though, all there was this dandy whitetail, and he seemed plenty nervous. That big whitetail kept prancing around, and it really wasn't until the smaller buck and a doe worked their way back in that everything seemed to calm down and just go to feeding. T sat there quietly watching that big whitetail as he slowly started feeding over toward the Sika. And they seemed to be getting along just fine. That is until one of the Sika does threw her head up and looked out into the bush. Here was a dandy Sika buck working his way in. This is exactly the kind of critter T had been waiting on. Now all she had to do was get her gun up and out the window without spooking all these does that were standing in front of us.
Okay, now ease it out. Ease it out.
And you know, she almost made it. Fortunately, they didn't spook too bad. We put our face covers on, and before we even got set down, this, friends, is a dandy Sika. 4 on each side, as big as they get. Now all Tina needed to do was, do the same thing. Get the gun out and get it on him.
Can you shoot him?
Without getting caught.
If you're ready, you can shoot him.
Huge Sika buck.
I hope so.
You hope so. I'm sure I heard it. Wow. Did you have it right on his shoulder?
Right on it.
Well, then
Right
I'm
on
sure.
it. I don't know.
That rifle you borrowed for Dan, he wouldn't dare give you a rifle that's not straight, would he?
I know, but it's the shooter that had the problem.
That's a big Sika, big 4x4. All kind of critters.
I was so afraid that
Another great whitetail, even bigger 4x4 whitetail come out. I'm sitting here, there's a little line of spit running down my chin. I'm drooling. Nice. That's a big Sika.
Oh, please let
Yeah.
it be a good shot.
Well, do you feel confident? Do you?
I think so.
You think so?
You know, I actually don't know. I think this is the first time I can actually say I don't know.
A little scary?
A little scary.
Well, welcome to hunting. Welcome to Earth, the rest of us. You want to go?
Let's go look.
Want to go see?
Yes.
All right. Did you get him?
Yeah, I got him.
You sure
Yep,
you got him?
I did.
All right.
He's
Well,
around here somewhere.
he come right in through here. There's a good trail. Even I can follow that sign. So you go get him, Tracker.
Okay. Here's some blood. Right there.
Yeah.
Oh, I see him.
You see him?
Yep.
All right. Look at
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Is he done?
He's done.
Nice job. Your first ever Sika.
I wasn't too sure.
No, you were a little giddy, little bit worried in the blind, but it looks like it worked. You know what we ought to do?
What?
We ought to holler for Dan. I know he heard you shoot.
Okay.
You wanna let him help, or you wanna just send him out here?
I'll bring him in.
All
No.
right. Well, you shout
Dan, I'm
again.
over here.
Again. He can't hear you loud,
Dan, I'm over here.
like you're yelling at me.
Dan, I'm over here.
Where?
Right here.
Okay.
Marco.
Hi.
Oh boy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What an animal.
Isn't he beautiful?
Great job, Tina.
Thank
Good
you.
job. The gun works, huh?
Yeah, it works.
Oh my. What an animal. Wow. 4x4? That's a beauty. Beautiful animal.
He is. He's gorgeous.
Beautiful mane. Look at that. That's the elk in him. That's the elk. Tina, this is your animal. Get a hold of him. Grab him.
All right, get on behind that thing, girlfriend. That's your first ever Sika. What do you think?
He's gorgeous.
Is that not a pretty creature?
He's beautiful.
Is that worth sitting in the heat?
Yeah, it was.
This is quite a place, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's just amazing.
There's so many different things, and you just never know what's going to pop up. What did we see? We saw hogs, we saw a ram, we saw some whitetails. I'm out here trying to hunt whitetails, and 2 shooter bucks come wandering by. Tina's going, na 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 na, not your day to hunt. Suck it up, Susie.
Wrong
She's hard.
species.
I did whine a little bit when that second 8-point, but I'll tell you what, that's as good a Sika as I've ever seen, in person. That's a dandy, a 4x4, nice polished tips. What are you gonna do with that one?
I think I'm going to have him mounted.
You think? What do you think about Dan now? He's not such a bad guy, is he?
No.
It's just the gun, Tina. It's not me. It's the gun.
She don't love you. She's using you for the firearm. I see.
That's all I'm worth is the gun.
Oh, I love you too.
Don't bet on it. No. We do want to thank Gwen and Peter though, and everybody.
From the Rio Bonito, Gwen, Peter, thank you so much. This has just been amazing. You have a wonderful facility. We saw so many wonderful creatures. I can't tell you how grateful I am for this. I will remember this for a long time.
After a couple of quick pictures, we loaded up Tina's Sika buck and headed back into the Rio for her triumphant hunter's return. Gwen came out, snapped a few more shots. Friends, it was indeed a good day.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is nice.
Thank you again
Oh,
so much.
My friends, T and I had such a tremendous time. We saw so much game, so many opportunities. You can rest assured we're going to remember that trip for years to come. Friends, our hunt at the Rio Bonito was everything we could have hoped for and even more. I want to congratulate again Miss T on her first ever exotic, and we truly want to thank Gwen, Peter, Captain Dan, everybody at the Rio Bonito for the care and the accommodations and the great hunt. And we've only shown you a small portion. In weeks to come, you're going to see my whitetail hunt from there, and it's every bit as exciting. There's a whole bunch, like I said before, there's even bass fishing. Hey, if this is something that you'd like to try, if going down for some warm weather at the end of the season or maybe some springtime exotic hunting, you can hunt there 364 days a year for those exotics. Certainly deer in season, wild turkey, wild hogs, they have it all, and they'd be more than willing to share it with you. And who knows, you might even run into us down there. And if you do, well, you can bet we'll stop and help you drag yours out, honk the horn as we run up to the hacienda. And if we don't see you down there, friends, well, at the very least, we hope to catch each and every one of you right back here for another adventure from my Wilderness Journal. Thanks again, Gwen and Peter and Dan, everybody at the Rio Bonito, for a tremendous time.